Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. I decided that I wanted to start incorporating kind of tips and tricks with body painting that I have personally found helpful. And so today's video I want to talk specifically about shading, because I think shading is such an integral part of body painting, and I noticed through my years of body painting little things here and there that I found really helpful to create something that looks more realistic rather than just like body paint on your body, you know what I mean? So today I'm going to be showing you how to paint a collar. I'm going to be doing this side? Yes, this side I'm going to be doing with, like, I don't want to say the wrong steps, because nothing's wrong because you're learning, you know what I mean? But how I started out painting and how I see like beginners painting versus what I've learned now. And you can kind of see the difference in how shading can really bring something to life if you do it correctly. So I'm just going to quickly, I'm taking my little eyebrow pen that I've told you guys about, but I'm just going to quickly kind of just draw out a generic collar shape, okay? We're not doing anything crazy today because I figured this would be kind of the easiest way to showcase exactly what I mean. I'm just going to go ahead and take my paint, and I'm going to just load up my little brush and just do a base layer of white paint on both sides. It's so funny because I always do an outline and then I end up not really following the outline as well as I drew it out. Okay, I have my little fake collar painted. So I'm going to start out by showing you what I see most often when people start body painting clothing, and a mistake that I made as well when I first started. But basically, I'm just going to go ahead and take like a little brush like this, and I'm going to grab some paint, some black paint. And most times I see, what side did I say I wanted? This side? I can't remember which side I said was what, so this side's going to be the non-super shaded one. So here's what I normally see in beginner body painting, and again, what I did when I first started, is you just take your little black paint, right? And just kind of outline it. And there we go. If sometimes I will see a little bit of a black eyeshadow, okay? We'll get a little bit of a shadow underneath it. So I will add that, okay? Yeah, like I said, sometimes I will see a little spicy black eyeshadow underneath it. This feels so weird, I'm not even gonna lie. I've been doing this for so long that doing it like this, it feels so unnatural, but it's fine. I'm teaching. And it's usually quite right underneath. Okay. Normally it's a little bit underneath. Okay, that's it. Genuinely, that's pretty much all that I see. This is also what I did. When I first started, I did not use any eyeshadow. I just used paint. Then I decided to try to be a little spicy and try some eyeshadow, and this is pretty much how far that I would get, okay? This is the extent that I see a lot of beginner body painters get to when it comes to shading. So I want to give you some tips and tricks to help bring this to life a little bit, okay? First, I like to go in with like a fluffy brush like this, and I like to go in with a very light gray eyeshadow. So in this case, I'm going to be using this eyeshadow first, okay? And you just load that on your brush, and I'm going to start by creating a crease at the top, okay? You're not going to follow it all the way up to the top of the white. You're going to start just a little bit down from it. And I'm going to kind of, another thing is it's not going to be a fully connected line, because if you look at fabric folds in any type of fabric, there's not just a straight fold, okay? There's some parts where it's folded more than other parts, and that's where you kind of want to work a little bit of inconsistency with your shadow so that it looks more realistic. So I'm actually going to bring it a little bit higher up and kind of even add a little bit of a circle to it, and bring it back. And again, I'm kind of leaving this part blank right here. Then I usually like to bring a heavy shadow right here where the kind of corner is. Even bring that up and blend it out a little bit. Maybe a little bit there. I basically try to start on the outer parts first and then work my way. And again, I'm leaving a little bit of a space right there. And then I'll throw in a couple like random lines sometimes, just so there's more texture in the actual material itself. Okay, so we have like a base there. The next thing I'll do is I'll go in with a darker eyeshadow and I'll start shading from the back forward, okay? This is creating a shadow and a depth behind you, because this right here is not going to have the same amount of light as right here. You're facing the light right here, so this part of you is further back. As you can see right now, there is a shadow happening on my body right here because the light is facing me. So you're gonna want shading on the back of whatever you're painting. Whether you're painting a full suit of clothing or whatever, you're gonna always want to add shadow right back here because, again, there's no light here. I try to go from darkest, obviously, to lightest. You're bringing the light forward, so you want there to be a shadow. So I always start light and then work my way darker. I do not want to go in with, I could go in with a black paint right now on this side and just go at it, but that's not going to look natural or realistic. I like to build up so that there's a gradual shadow instead of just like black, white. You understand what I mean? So I'm going to start by just taking it and dragging it forward. And I'm just going in with a darker gray than the one that I used. I'm a big fan of using kind of the same color family in different shades. So for example, if I'm doing a full suit of something, I always start out with a mid-tone color, okay? And I'm gonna do an entire episode about this kind of process, but similar to this, I'm gonna start out with a mid-tone gray, right? And I'm gonna go a little bit lighter and a little bit darker to create a really good shadow instead of just going straight in with like what you would assume is the best shadow color, which is black. So I'm just dragging till I'm happy with it. I'll start going in with that darker color at the very, very back. I'll go in with the darkest kind of black gray that I own. And I don't want to do the entire thing. Do you see how it's darker here and then darker right here? I like the way that looks because it feels more natural. Weirdly enough, the more inconsistent you are, the more realistic it looks, because nothing has these perfect straight lines, nothing has these perfect shadows, nothing is perfectly highlighted. So it helps when there's these little inconsistencies in it to help make it look more real. Okay, now I'm going to start taking that middle color and I'm going to start adding it to the edges where I need it to start getting darker. So I always like right here to be quite dark and right here to be quite dark. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of a Q-tip and I'm going to change the shape of this just a little bit, okay? Again, the difference is colors don't just go whoosh, you know? So I'm going to take some water and I'm going to add a little bit of like a wave in it, okay? Just so it has a little bit of like a natural flow. And I'll show you how important that is when I do the actual shading of right here, okay? So again, I'm just gonna kind of add a little bit of like a dip to it, so it has a little bit more of a texture. I'm gonna take that really dark color and I'm just gonna add a little bit of a line. I may add I really don't have like a rhyme or reason when it comes to adding lines. I just go for it. And then sometimes I'm like, well, that didn't work out. But most times I'm like, do you know what you're doing? It's funny because I have a lot of people say like, oh, you're a good body painter. And half the time I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I threw that line in there and I look at it and I'm like, all right, that kind of looks like I want it to look. So just trust yourself, just go with it. Again, I feel like the more texture, the better it looks. Okay, I'm gonna take this natural palette, and this is where things get fun. This is where I think things really come together. So with this, I usually like to stick with about this color, this one, and this one. Okay, this is a good kind of like trio when it comes to creating a shadow on skin. If I was doing this on a colorful background, I would use the colors of this. So for example, if I had painted this white color over a purple suit, I would use purples, but because I'm using my skin tone, I'm using shades of my own skin tone. So again, blue, use blues, greens, use greens, but you're gonna wanna do the same method just with your various shades of whatever color you're using. So I'm gonna start with that very, very light color, and I'm going to start shading right underneath this, okay? And the thing about this is you can kind of bring this out pretty far with that first color. And then I'm gonna follow it all the way back. And again, you don't need to get right up against the line of the collar. You can take it pretty far out. Next, I'm gonna go in with that middle color. And I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to start just kind of working that in, but a little bit closer towards the actual piece of material. And this is where you're going to want to start to follow the actual line of what you're doing as well. It doesn't need to be as close. It can still be a little bit thick of a line, so don't worry if it's if you feel like you brought it out too far. My main focus with this is going to be right here. I'm actually going to bring it a little bit further out, just right at this point. Okay. See, we're getting somewhere with it. Then we're going to take that third color, the darkest of the three. And again, if you're using different colors, this would be the darkest. You're going to want to find, again, we're going to go with purple, a light purple, a mid-tone purple, and a dark purple. So, I'm going to go with that darkest color, and this is where you're going to want to be a little bit more careful. I'm just following it. Again, really focusing on this part right here and right against it. Okay, this is where I start to incorporate a little bit of black. I'm going to take a small brush that looks like this, and I'm going to take a black eyeshadow, and this is where I like to be very precise. This is where I put my black. People tend to go ham with black. I did as well, but this is what I find helps make it look real. I'm going to take that black, and this is where you're really going to focus it. And I like to go just slow and steady. And it's kind of hard. I am going to highlight this. I'm going to do an entire thing about highlighting as well, but I'm going to highlight it at the end just so you can see it all together. The highlight with the right shading, telling you. So I really like to do it on parts that are going to be have the most shadow to them. Which is, again, this part right here. And sometimes I'll even bring it out a little bit more. But I'm not going to follow it across the entire thing. And if you wanted to get a little bit spicy with it, take your black and create a little dip in the material here. Okay? So just cover your white paint. Create a little like dip in it and then fill it in. And then I'm going to kind of skip a little bit, add some black, and then kind of finish it back here. So you can see how there's this really dark moment, then it gets a little bit lighter, it's dark, a little bit lighter, dark, and it adds, again, this kind of randomness that tends to actually work out well. So you can see the difference between just going with just a black line and black eyeshadow to really taking the time to layer your shading colors by going from lightest to darkest and creating these little like waves and things like that that add just a completely different feeling to the fabric or the material that you're painting. Okay, I'm quickly gonna add a couple of highlights and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you what it looks like at the end. I did almost forget up here. I forgot that you do need to shade up here as well. This is where the collar is going to sit against your skin, so you just want to add a little bit something there. And again, if you wanted to get extra with it, you can just add like a little divot in it so there's a little bit of a inconsistency to the material. Okay, so now I have a little bit of highlights. It's not my ultimate highlight that I do, but just a little bit so you can kind of see how it looks. So I just wanted to show you my tips for shading. So I'm going to list them out real quick. Number 1, add inconsistencies to whether you're painting it. Like when I removed some of the paint and I added this little like divot and stuff, add a little bit of inconsistency to your lines. 2, go in with 3 different shades. Start out light, mid-tone, dark. And then at the very end, the very, very last touch, add a little bit of black. And make sure that you just kind of go with it. Trust yourself, trust your instincts. Look at just the difference in what a few steps can make. It's not hard. Nothing that I did was super difficult. I didn't even follow anything. I just kind of winged it, and I feel like it looks significantly better. So that's my first little segment on how to body paint. Maybe get better at body painting or just learning in general. Next week, I will talk to you about highlighting, and then we will continue on in the series so that I can try to teach you some things. If you have any questions, by the way, about specific techniques you want to learn or effects you want to create, please leave them down below. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you did like the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Goodbye!